Far out. I guess we're all pointed on. Yeah. So I think we're gonna talk a little bit about Sefirat HaOmer in general and Lag BaOmer a little bit in particular. Is that okay? Okay. Yes. Okay. So I don't the Sefirat HaOmer is discussed in Vayikra and Devarim, famously in Parshas Emor, and that parsha itself that it's featured in of the Moadim is really a parsha that I would like to look at with you all, just generally, because it's a very important. There are a lot of very important ideas about mitzvahs that immediately appear right before the parsha of the Moadim, and then there are deep ideas there that play out in terms of an understanding of all the Yom Tovim themselves. I maybe we'll get to do that next time when we talk about Shavuos. So I'm not gonna go through the actual parsha. I want to get back and do a few, but I'm gonna pull on certain themes of from the parsha just to talk about Sefirat HaOmer. So in the parsha of the Moados, in Emor, it says. It mentions Shabbos in where it introduces the appointed times, and then it talks about Pesach, and then it says that when you go in, it takes a break for a second. It says when you come into the land, you're going to have fields, and it's going to be the time of the Kitzir. And there's a problem with eating the new grain till you bring the Karban Omer. You're going to bring a Karban Omer. And this is going to come on the Mimachras HaShabbos. So I'm going to read it for you. 1 second. Okay. So it's not really a digression, but it just finished talking about Pesach. It's going to talk about Shavuos, and it takes a break to talk about the Omer, because that's the time to do it, the Mincha of the Omer that you bring right after Pesach. But it's really going to start talking about this in the context of agriculture. You're going to have lands, and you're going to have a harvest. So before the harvest, right, there's a problem with eating the new harvest before the Omer. So it says, you're going to come in, uksartem es kitzira, you're going to harvest your grain, ve'avesem es Omer, reshus kitzir chamel kohen. So the Omer is a measurement, you're going to bring that to the kohen, ve'henefes ha'omer lefnei Hashem letzamchem. This is not everybody individually, this is Am Yisrael brings this, right? The kohen brings this on behalf of Am Yisrael, and then everybody can eat from their grain. Okay, Mimachras HaShabbos, right after Shabbos, Yinifeno Kohen, that's when he waves, he brings his mincha, and it says that on the day that you wave it, you're going to bring all these other karbanos, keves tamim ben shnato la'ola, and etc., the solas and the shemen and the yayin, the lechem, the kali, the charmel, all these types of grains, lo sochlu, you can't eat, ad etzem hayom hazeh, till the smack this day, smack in the middle of this day, meaning till it's day, until you bring this karban, the karban of Hashem. Okay, so it talked about the Omer. And then it says, you should count for yourselves immediately after Shabbos. Chazal tell us, this is a matter of great contention, famously, between Chazal and the Tzedukim. Is the Shabbos here mean the first day of Pesach where there's Shvisas Melacha, where you don't do work? Or does it mean the first Motzei Shabbos, meaning Yom Rishon, after Pesach started? Okay? It says, Shabbos. We say Shabbos over here is the first day of Pesach. Miyom Heviya Chemes Omer Nufa. It's linked to when you bring the Omer. Sheva Shabbosos Temimas Tihiyah, and they must be 7 complete weeks. Ad Mi'achas HaShabbos HaShvis Tisperu Chamishim Yom, and right until after the end of that last day of those 7 weeks, the Shabbos HaShvis, you should count Chamishim Yom, 50 days. The craft mincha chadasha l'Adonai, and then you'll bring a new karban, a new mincha. And what does it say? It talks about the day halechem. Okay, special lechem now, and it talks about the other karbanos, and it's talking about Shavuos. It got to Shavuos, and then it'll say, by the way, this is going to be a holiday. Don't do malacha. Okay. So it ended up in Shavuos, and then as an aside, as if it's still not talking about agriculture, even though it's talking about the Yom Tov and Shavuos, it says, when you do harvest your fields, you have to keep the peah, the corners, for the ani. So the mitzvah now of leket and peah are given here. Okay, of all places, okay? Right? La'ani v'lager ta'azov. You have to leave them for the ani and the ger, ani Hashem Elokecha. And then it goes right back, right? B'chodesh Hashvi, b'echad HaChodesh, you're going to have Yom Teruah, Rosh Hashanah. So, okay, so just to recap, it mentions Pesach, it talks about the Omer, then it says you got to count, and the counting is you're going to get to a holiday which there's no date. Every single other holiday that we mentioned here has a calendar date. There's no calendar date for Shavuos. It's a function of counting from Pesach, okay? And it's couched in a lifestyle of agriculture when you get to Eretz Yisrael, about being able to eat the new grain and what you have to do, the mitzvahs that you have to do, the kedusha that you have to enact in your field vis-a-vis the ani, etc. Okay, so that's the source. That's, first of all, that's now, there's so much to talk about, but I just want to put that on the table. Okay, so now there is an importance to count. Shavuos here, I just want to be, because we have to mention Shavuos, but we can't get too much into Shavuos now. Hopefully we'll get there. Shavuos is called the Festival of Weeks. Here too, it's never ever mentioned overtly linked with Matan Torah. Okay, the first mention, so to speak, why everybody knows that it's Matan Torah is because it says in Ya'aleh v'Yamos Matan Torah Seinu. There's a machloket in Shas whether Ma'amad Har Sinai happened on the 6th of Sivan or the 7th of Sivan. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, even Shavuos is not on the day of Matan Torah. Chazal say there's also a reason why Matan Torah itself never has a date. It just says when they got to Har Sinai, and then it talks about different days. They waited 3 days, they separated. There's controversy about, yes? Well, I'll tell you what Chazal say. Chazal say like this. It says, why is there no date given? Why don't we know? And Torah is always said as it's being given hayom, today. That it should be be'enecha, b'chol yom yeh be'enecha kechad Hashem. That the Torah being given. It's true that the Har Sinai was a one-time event. And we talk about the unique aspects of that. But the aspect of it, the element, we did not go to Har Sinai to get the Torah. We went to connect to Hashem. And the Torah is, so to speak, it's not just a parting gift, but it's basically what allows us to maintain and live in a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu based on Ma'amad Har Sinai, which is seen as the Chukmah. Okay, it says in Shir Hashirim Yom Chatunato, that's Ma'amad Har Sinai. So you could think of the Torah as in this mashal as a ketubah. Now, yes, the whole reason why God made the world is that humans should keep the Torah, and this was an awesome opportunity, and that's why He gave it to us. So really, but that's what it means to be married to God. That means the partnership. The Torah is the medium that allows us to partner. But God said, this is not about the Torah. He didn't want us to think it's about the Torah. He wanted us to think it's about us, right? So that's why He says, Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzesicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. He doesn't say, I am God that made the world. He says, I am God that took you out. It's personal. We're building a personal relationship. The Torah is given over in the context of a union and a bond. And that's really what Shavuos is all about. And Chazal say the giving of the Torah happens every day. The Torah has to be fresh every day. There's a bat kol, it says, what's bothering you?
What's bothering me is that you just said that it doesn't say that Shavuos is explicitly Matan Torah.
Exactly.
So,
well, actually, what I'm pointing out is uniquely, Matan Torah also is never given a date. Also.
Right. So
you're asking where am I going with this?
No, I'm asking what's the connection?
Why did I? You're asking where am I going with this? Yeah.
You said we're not told the date so that we can connect with it every day.
Sorry?
We're not given the date of Matan Torah, so that we can
Because it's
connect with it
irrelevant.
every day.
The date is irrelevant.
But we're not given a date for Matan Torah, but you're also not given a date for Shavuos.
Right, but one second. The reason why we're not given a date for Shavuos is because Shavuos is not a function of a particular date. It's a function of counting. I mean, if you don't have the counting, you're not going to have whatever we're saying over here when describing Shavuos isn't right. When we say there's no date of given amount of Torah, we're highlighting the idea that we don't want to localize Torah in a particular time, and the giving of the aspect of the giving. Now there's Harsina, but remember, I'm just saying, I'm trying to separate just for a second the aspect of Matan Torah from Maimon Harsina. Okay, you follow what I'm saying? Matan Torah is relevant every day. Why is there no day for Maimon Harsina? But Maimon Harsina is definitely right. There is something far beyond the understanding of what that event was is not just to facilitate the Torah. Like we say, Ilu karvenu lifnei Sinai, v'lo natan lanu es haTorah dayin. Okay.
So what connects Maimon Harsina to Shavuot?
What
connects them if they're both given?
Why did Chazal say that it's man matan Torah say?
Yeah.
So what is Shavuot all about? Is it not about the giving of the Torah?
Okay, so in this parsha, it's given over specifically as a function of your harvest and the act of your harvest and how your harvest is holy. And it seems to be a celebration. It's like Labor Day. It's a celebration of you achieved, you're ending your cycle of your partnership with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your field. And you bring your Bikurim, and you've partnered with Hashem, and now you're partying with Hashem on, it's not exactly like, Chag HaAsif is Sukkot. That's really celebrating the harvest. This is celebrating the Kitzir. It's different. It's a different stage.
Well, okay? It's different because this is the grains, the Omer and the wheat.
Right.
And in the fall is the fruits and the.
Right, but it's still called Chag HaBikurim, and you can still bring from the Bikurim already now. This is the season on Shavuos.
So why it's 49 days?
I'm so glad everyone's engaged. I'm going to try to get there. Okay. Let's see. Where were we? Okay. So 1 second. So when did it become? Let's agree to give more focus in clarifying Shavuos next time. Okay, because it's really, I knew that like if I touch on these things, right? But however you learn, I'll give you a layer behind what we're saying. Okay, okay, in terms of your point, okay? However you learn the significance of Shavuos or Atzeret or Zman Matan Torah Seinu, whatever that holiday is for us, it is clear, whatever angle you go to, that we're celebrating that our entire life, all the dimensions of our life as a human being here in this world, in this temporal world, even in regards to our agriculture and our daily lives and our work week, whatever that is all done, that is all embraced and subsumed within our relationship with Hashem, so that it's all holy. And we're celebrating the recognition of the fact that our life itself down here is actually the field of where our interaction with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and our relationship with Him is. That's the idea. Whether it's a Zman Matan Torah Seinu, where the Torah is what allows us to elevate all parts of our life to see it within the relationship with us and Hashem, so that there's even halachos about mandating like how you put on your shoes. There's nothing that the Torah doesn't have what to say about. And I want to explore that a little bit more too. But anyway, either that or it's the fact that it's your field. And there's a lot of beautiful symbolism, like in the fact that I'll just give it. Doing things piecemeal, but it says, remember the last point we made at the end of the mitzvah of after the holiday of Shavuos, it says that you leave the heya to la'ani v'lager ta'azov. You leave that for him. So my father asked a good question. The mitzvah is to leave it for them. You're not allowed to cut it and save it for them. They have to come. They can have. Thank you. They can send somebody to be zocha on their behalf, but it has to be left for them. And the question is why? Why can't you give it to them? Sometimes people answer, well, because there's shame involved. Maybe it's more dignified for them to come. But you could make an argument just the opposite. Everybody knows whoever's coming to harvest who doesn't belong there, they're the needy, right? And And you could always, the mitzvah could have been to drop it off anonymously somewhere. So what is the added, what do you gain from leaving it for the ani to come pick it up?
Because they have a sense of it, yeah.
Okay. So we want them to feel good that they have a sense of agency? Or is there something even deeper?
Well, that's their way, like, the one who harvests has the bounty of Hashem that way. And the one who gleans has the bounty of Hashem that way. So
I think Hashem wants us to do it two ways. One way Hashem gives us up, down, to live there, and then we can do something. Hashem wants us to do it, to put our labor into it. So it's always in partnership.
Okay. So I'm so glad you said the word partnership. Okay, here's the idea, and this is why I'm mentioning it in regards to Shavuos. It's the idea that if you would cut the grain, that means you would only understand that it's the anis from the moment that he comes to get it. Whereas, I'm sorry, if you don't cut the grain, you leave it for him, that means that it's not just the cutting and the giving over, it's that all the work that you did from the beginning till when the ani comes to pick it up, it's implied now that he's a partner and he's coming to get his share. So what it does is instead of cutting it down, right, when he's coming back, you're basically including all the work that you did in the field. You did it on behalf of the ani. He was your silent partner from the beginning. Okay? Did you follow what I said? That if you, right? So the ani was there in the beginning. This is the idea that, and this then will be, we're going to talk about why we need a Sefirat HaOmer to get to this place. But this is an idea then that on Shavuos you can realize, you get to the point where you can celebrate that there's no conflict in your worldly life. There doesn't have to be any conflict between the things that you have to be involved with down here, your avodas Hashem. That it's all subsumed within your relationship with Hashem, so that the things you have to do in this world, you can be thankful and joyous that you're engaging in a relationship with Hashem when you're doing them, and therefore it's holy. So the whole idea of agriculture here and working your field is uplifted to something that is done. You're an agent of a kadosh Baruch Hu down here, and you're living a relationship with him. And so that's the idea of leaving it for the ani as a thought for maybe what Shavuos is. So whether you want to talk about Shavuos in terms of there is a Chazal that says that it was on 6th of Sivan, even though the Torah doesn't say it. And so look, there is, how many holidays do we have of Matan Torah?
No.
Excuse me.
No.
What happened on Yom Kippur? That's when we finally got the luchas, right? And what do we celebrate on Simchat Torah?
Simchat Torah.
Well, I want to say the giving of the Torah, but we could say we celebrate Torah in almost all the holidays. Purim.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
So the giving of the Torah, no.
Matan Torah, no, but Kabbalas Torah, yes. Okay, that's a fine distinction. Yes, the Kabbalas Torah of Yom Kippur, the Kabbalas Torah, right, of Simchas Torah. But there are practices that we have that we seem to be celebrating different aspects of the Torah. In Shavuos is Matan Torah. It's what the opportunities given to us and our lives from Hashem extending the Torah to us and being connected to Hashem in a bris So now to take a step back, it's really important to know that the introduction to this whole part of the Chumash that talks about the Moedos is preceded by 4 mitzvahs, which seem to have nothing to do with this, just briefly outside. They are the idea that when you slaughter an animal, it has to be a minimum of 8 days. You're not allowed to slaughter it before 7 days. You have to wait until it's 8 days old. The next mitzvah is that if you slaughter an animal, you cannot slaughter its mother or its child on the same day. Can't. Not allowed. Okay. Third is the mitzvah of nosar and pigo, that you can't save something beyond the time that it has to be burnt on the mizbech, and that you can't have in mind when you slaughter an animal that you're going to eat it or you're going to bring it on the mizbech other than the time that's mandated by the Torah. And the last mitzvah, which seems to be a total non sequitur, is the mitzvah that you're commanded to sanctify God's name with your life in conditions where you're called upon to do it. That you have to give up your life for God in the event that there is conflict. Okay, whatever that means, like whether halachically that means the 3 big averot that we're supposed to give up our lives for. Okay, so those are a collection of mitzvah that all highlight, and I'm not going to get into it now, but ask me next time, they all highlight a particular, they're each a symbol or a mashal for an aspect of time and what it means to be engaged in the temporal dimension of our existence, how time moves, operates, affects us, and then the Yamim Tovim are given all as different aspects of Kedushas Hazman, holidays that we have sanctified time, and in engaging in this Yom Tov, it has elevated us in some way from the limitations, that particular idea of the limitations of time. So each Yom Tov is a way where we become nitzchi. We have some sort of eternal connection beyond how time normally limits a human being. There's a certain idea of time that each Yom Tov comes to elevate us from and allows us to engage in that in the idea of the sanctification of time. Mitzvah Hashem will get into it. Okay, so now the point is here that we want to transcend the limitations of time, and I'm sorry, one second. The last point we made was, okay, we've been talking about Shavuos, okay, and we want to go back and we want to talk about Sefirat HaOmer. Okay, so now the famously, I'm just going to mention again that the Torah characterizes Pesach over here as Mimachras HaShabbos. Okay.
What? Pesach?
Yeah. It says that after Shabbos you'll start to count.
No. Right. It characterizes Sefirat HaOmer as Mimachras.
No. But it characterizes Pesach as Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Okay. So now, now I don't want to sound too contradictory, because when we're going to talk about aspects of Sefirat HaOmer, we are going to highlight that there is a journey that goes on between Pesach and Shavuos, and we're going to talk about this meaning between Pesach and Matan Torah. So I'm not denying that Matan Torah is a large part of Shavuos, but it's given over to us, we're instructed in a way to highlight other aspects so that we really understand what the Matan Torah is, and not vice versa. I mean, it's very important for the Torah to make these points about the Kitzir and to prioritize that's your understanding, your relationship to this idea, as opposed to a historical event that may have occurred on that day. Okay, because that's not what the Torah says. It's not about the historical event. It does coincide with the historical event, maybe according to half of Shas, and there's attendant symbolism in that. Okay, so we're talking, Sefirat HaOmer covers the period from Pesach to Shavuos, which in the Torah was from Yetzias Mitzrayim to Maimad Har Sinai. And that describes a very real process that Am Yisrael went through from birth to marriage. Okay, so when we talk about the Sefirat HaOmer, meaning whatever that process facilitates, we go from the Sa'ora, the barley, which is characterized by Chazal and the Gemara as Ma'achal Behema. Even though we eat barley, it's really seen as inferior human food and more as animal food. So we go from the Omer, which is barley, to bringing the two breads on the Mizbeach, the Shtei Alechem HaShavuos, which is made out of chita. So we're going from our animalistic self to a more elevated self. There's the idea of going from matzah to chametz, because we start off our relationship with Hashem Yetzias Mitzrayim. There's no room at all for anything extra. We go back to the bare essentials. We cut out anything to make sure nothing belongs there. We're starting off right foundations, and then we get to a place on Shavuos that, and the Torah says, generally speaking, you're not allowed to bring chametz on the Mizbeach, but the Shtei Alechem are chametz. And that too is a symbolism of being able to incorporate all the aspects of your being and all the dimensions of your life, also put now even the chametz, even the hot air, right? It's not hot air anymore. It's fullness. It's all the things, right? On the Mizbeach, you can connect Hashem with that. So there's the symbolism of that. You have
that's the only time that we bring chametz.
Pretty much, because it says yeah. So there's the idea of dat, of becoming mature, of being chayav in mitzvos. That we started off as a child being born b'ni b'chor Yisrael on Pesach, and then we stand under the chuppah, being able to engage in relationship, having das, being aware of myself vis-a-vis other, and being able to create an intimate space. So all these things are meant to describe really what's happening to us organically in this period of the year, and that's clearly seen from these symbols. And it's fascinating that it occurs during the season of the year, which is the four seasons correspond to the four elements. So winter is classically, it's connected to the dome, which in English we call it the mineral. but in Hebrew it's the inanimate. It's creation that demonstrates the least life force. It doesn't seem to have behavior. It's not reactive, or it doesn't do anything. So, right, it's just, so that's the winter, because all the growth that's happening in the winter is invisible, it's underground. Everything looks dead. And the spring, all of a sudden, there's life. That's the tzomeach. That's vegetation, because vegetation is the simplest, primitive form of life, where you start to see a chiyus. It has a desire. It eats. It has needs. It flowers. It blooms. It moves. You can observe its growth, and it's dynamic and in flux, and it shows you there's chiyus in the world, and it shows investing chiyus, and you can see the organism. It goes in different stages. You can observe all that. So the spring is the sign of life, on the level of vegetation, of tzomeach. The summer really, really brings out the nefesh habahamis in people. That's really the animal. And the fall is Tishrei. That's the creation of the world. That's Adam Harishon. That's the Medaber. That's the human being. Usually there's an appropriateness to what we find ourselves celebrating at that point in time and how it fits in with that. This time of the spring, there's a spurt of tremendous growth, and we experience in nature this idea of growth. And it's a time in Am Yisrael's history at their inception, and every year for us, to experience tremendous growth spiritually. And that's really, it's a set time, it's a matrix of time that you're developing spiritually, that the end result is a vessel that receives the Torah. So we're being formatted according to the Torah. And it's on the level of our tzomeach. And it's quite natural. And this was a time of great joy. Since the beginning, till Rabbi Akiva's time. So we have to talk about why. Really the nature of Sefirat HaOmer is a time of incredible joy and a period of incredible growth. And I want to talk about that and develop that a little bit for a second. And then historically, we know it, we're in the shadow of the legacy of the story of Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim, etc. And we have to talk about that, because it seems unfair that such a big deal in terms of what it is natively, this period of time, should be almost like, it seems like, kids are confused whether it's Sefirat HaOmer or Ben Hamtzon. It's the 3 weeks, So that's the legacy of, that's what our Sefirat HaOmer is. How did that happen? What does that mean? Okay, so that's really what I want to touch upon today. Okay, so Sefirat HaOmer, you can focus in. We can talk about how the Mekubalim talk about so there's actually a discussion in Halacha. There's a machloket Rishona. If we have a mitzvah d'oraisa counting the Omer today, if the Omer was a separate mitzvah, or was only a function of the actual carbon of the Omer function and counting to the carbonos of Shavuos, which if we don't have that, then why are we even counting? So it's Zechor L'Chorban. But there are Rishonim, chiefly the Rambam, who will say it's a mitzvah d'oraisa, that the counting is separate. You can arrest the meaning, this mitzvah counting, from the Omer, and it's still significant. And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about that there's something in the day natively spiritually, and we're all used to that, really, from all the calendars that come out talking about, in the parlance of the Mekubalim, what you can work on today, right? Okay, so
Moshe Rabbeinu said it too.
What did Moshe Rabbeinu say? That's right. But was he only talking about Sefirat HaOmer?
No,
the Bas Shem Tov, right. So the Bas Shem Tov, it's interesting. Why do we say that period of time is like uniquely on the calendar dedicated to that? The Bas Shem Tov says that there isn't 1 hour or 1 day that doesn't have its own tikkun. You can't be doing the same thing. Obviously, we're supposed to have a regimen and schedule, but you have to know that there's a uniqueness to every day and uniqueness to every hour, and there's a reason why you did today what you did today in a unique way. Okay. There's something about the aspect of days and weeks that need to be realigned in preparation for Shavuos. Okay, so each day has its own unique character. The kadosh Baruch Hu invested every day Bereshis with its own unique spirit, and it was evening and it was a day. It was the day of Yom Echad, Yom Sheni, right? I didn't say Yom Rishon. I said Yom Echad. Okay, because that's what it's called. Okay, so each day. Now we know that Shabbos is a function of a week. But there's a difference between living a week as you're living every day, boom, you got to Shabbos, now it's Shabbos, thank God it's Shabbos, or living that your whole week is essentially building up to Shabbos, and that your whole week is fed by Shabbos, and meaning you're living a different Shabbos, and you're living a different week. If you understand how it's a unit, and Shabbos is a function of those days. It's not just, you didn't just arrive, right?
Well, it's because we don't say Hayom Yom Rishon Shabbat, which is the full name of Yom Rishon. We say Hayom Yom Rishon.
We don't say Hayom Yom Rishon. Oh, you mean generally?
But in general,
But the Levium do.
We say Yom Rishon.
Yeah,
We don't say
but
Yom Rishon Shabbat.
what the Levium actually do, and that's why they do it, because they're the ones that are saying the Mizmar that is connected to the Neshama of that day. They are actually doing it for us. Yeah.
But if we were like really conscious all the time, every time we said Yom Rishon,
well, we use it for
Shabbat.
also we use it for utilitarian reasons, right? Okay. So you can live, since the week is Chol and Shabbos is holy. You can live a week as essentially just a regular weekday, and then when you get to Shabbos, it's like, oh wow, there's something else going on here, and not be aware at all and functioning at all on the level, operating on the level of truly a Shabbos as a function is built up, that you're feeding the Shabbos with the week. So also our life, the week, the things that we have to take care of the world, so that we can actually arrive at, Mishatach Be'erev Shabbos Yochel B'Shabbos, right? That's the idea, that the Kitzir, going back to the idea of the Kitzir, that your work in the field is done ultimately to celebrate with Hashem in the Shabbos, right? Why are we doing Olam Hazeh B'Chlal? To get to Yom Shekulo Shabbos, right? So this time of the year is a way of helping us realign each day. Okay, another aspect, the days also, I'm sorry, one second, correspond, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the world with 10 utterances, 10 sayings, Asar Ma'amar. These correspond to what we call the Sephiros, the 10 kinds of sort of vessels that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made as an interface between him and creation. Okay, so each day is essentially one of the lower 7 Sephiros, because there's a difference between the first 3 and the lower 7. The lower 7 are mitot, and that means they are relevant to us in time. They are the parts of the Sefirot that are manifest in time, that you interact with in time, in personality, the temporal parts. Okay, the mochim are objective. Okay, meaning that's who you are. And then the parts of you that interface, that you built to interface, the vessels that you have to interface, are your lower 7. And that's why they're also the days every week. So the days, the lower 7 spheres are the ones that we're realigning, or that we're building. Okay. So any of you that are into, that mahalach, and that was for you. If you want me to elaborate, I can try. But I'm saying that the 7 days of the week is the aspects of the temporal part of the Tzelem Elokim. Okay. And therefore, we're trying to make it that our time spent in this world, our activity, our chol, the sheshis binyan, are aligned with Shabbos, so that that there's no difference, that they function together, and Shabbos is a result of those. Okay, so we go through 7 weeks. There's a massive count of the days and the weeks. Now, this time was an incredible time in the Midbar. They got the man, they got the Ananei HaKavod, they had to battle Amalek, they got the sun, they got their the Zekanim, and they got basic mitzvahs. This was a time of amazing growth. Okay, and this is really a time of amazing growth for all of us. And yet, everybody only knows about the tragedy of Rabbi Akiva's death. So, if we understand this period of time to be a celebration of the potential of Am Yisrael's spirituality and their spiritual stature and their connection to Hashem, this is the time. Then it's especially poignant, the fact that, well, Rabbi Akiva, our entire Mesorah comes from him. Everything we have comes from Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was a repository of all the Torah Shabbat had beforehand. The Gemara goes on and on about how Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't believe Rabbi Akiva was, how great he was. And all the Torah we have comes from 5 Talmidim that he left us. Sorry? Yes. So all the Torah we have, including the Torah Shebechtav, because it was Rabbi Akiva and his friends that canonized what was Torah Shebechtav. The whole Torah we have comes from Rabbi Akiva and his Talmidim. And we only have a Masorah from 5 years Talmidim. Can you imagine how rich our Torah would be if the batch of 24,000 of the 12,000 pairs would have survived? So there's no more poignant time to feel the loss of potential of our Masorah and the Torah that we have than the time that's reserved for us to be aware of of our potential and our ability to grow. I mean, we're essentially mourning our lost potential. It's specifically at this point. And that's really the idea. I don't know who here has been to Kever Rachel Eshet Akiva here in Tveria, but I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite places. And Rabbi Akiva said, Shali v'shalcha shala. So she is, as far as I'm concerned, the Ima of Torah Shabbat.
Can you say the 5?
Offhand, it was Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Shimon, Bar Yochai.
Yassi and Rabbi Elazar.
There you go. Yeah. Now, Rabbi Akiva had contemporaries, but those were his Talmud. His contemporaries encouraged him to take on more Talmud. Okay. So now, that's really what that's all about. There's different. I've heard different things about. Chazal say they died because they were lo nahagu kavod zelazeh. So people try to. That's the Hasidus of the time.
It sort of takes over. I mean, if it's you don't think of it as a time of growth necessarily because it's a time of mourning. And it takes over the whole period.
It's really sad because it's in halacha and it's really that's why it's really important to know this whole back end, and that's why. Dun, 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 dun. This is what brings us to Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Shimon kind of this is crucial, and it took me a long time to really appreciate this. I had all the pieces, but it didn't click until very recently.
Maybe this is a set time for Judy said. But because of set time, it may prompt us to work more on our middles. If it's very joyous time, we will forget about middles. We just sing, we can dance, enjoy. But set time, when it's set, you can look inside yourself.
Indeed, even if there wasn't a tragedy, you're absolutely right. What would the focus of what we do on these days? We work on our midot, whether you call them from the Kabbalistic name or the faculties that God invested in the human experience to connect to Him, His character traits. Right? We're going to get back to that in a second because that's what I want to talk about Rabbi Shimon. Okay, Rabbi Shimon is the nechama from the whole tragedy of Rabbi Akiva, but he's a nechama in an awesome way, because meaning Rabbi Akiva is the one that gave us to Rabbi Shimon. There's a moment in the Gemara in Chazal where it says that Rabbi Shimon was downcast because nobody appreciated who he really was. He was among his peers, and Rabbi Akiva took him aside and says, "It's enough for you. It should be enough for you that I and God know who you really are." He tried to tell him, "I know he will." Now, who doesn't know who he is? But that's what Rabbi Akiva said. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I think all this means. Okay. Rabbi Shimon said, "Woe to anybody who thinks that the Torah are just stories. The stories are the levushim. They're the begadim. Who's wearing the levushim? God. I'm going to explain to you. Okay. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Chazal say, when Hashem said Anochi is Rashi Tevot. Ana nafsha kesivna yahavi. I gave you myself in writing. We talk about the Torah as a samachayim. Adam originate from the Eitz Hadas, and we're messed up. Look at the world around you. We would be crazy people like all the other societies, except I have Torah that keeps me in check. And even if I don't get it, the Torah makes sure that I don't lose it. That I live life. Even if I just say, okay, I don't get it, I'm just living according to the letter of law. The Torah is saving me. I mean, look at society. Okay, there's nothing that civilization hasn't tried, like lemmings jumping right over the cliff. And if I didn't have Torah, I'd be lost. So that's that's great. That's a big gift. Thank you. But that can't be the highest form of Torah. If Torah is just corrective, then who needs Torah if everything's great? So there's a much deeper level of Torah. There's a level of Torah that's God Himself that would be relevant even if Adam never sinned, because God God put Adam in the Gan. He said, "La'avdu l'shamo." There's mitzvos and there's Torah, and there's this different level of Torah, and that's the Torah that Hashem's in the Torah Himself. Okay, so you can learn, you connect to Hashem at some level, where there are beautiful ways that this is described by the Balatanya or the Yesod Avoda, even the Nefesh HaChaim, that you are engaging Yisrael V'Arais and the even in the mental space of a human being, where you're using your rational intellect or your thoughts to try to wrap around something godly, which is totally transcendent. You are connecting, communicating to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a certain level that the Balatanya says, even if you don't understand down here, you have no idea what's going on with the root of your neshama in those upper worlds, and you'll get it later if you don't get it now. Okay, so there's something about God that He's saying, I'm putting you want to get to know me? Remember, there's a relationship. This is not just about rules of behavior as a loyal subject to a king. When Hashem said, on the first glance from the outside, the Torah looks to us like a bunch of rules to dictate our behavior. But it's more than that. Its rules are hanhaga. When you can't see God's essence in this world, you can't see God's essence. God's essence is entirely transcendent. We only meet God through hanhaga, through His behavior. He says, know me through my behavior in this world. So when God's giving you codified behavior, He's saying, really, this is the way to match up with me, because I gave you Tselem Elokim. We can connect by matching it. That's meaning we are, whether it's through how Torah is supposed to tell you who God is. And you're supposed to engage it in a way that changes who you are, so that you are like God. And Rabbi Shimon showed us that there's something called the Pnimiyut Torah. And the Pnimiyut Torah is God Himself. And that's why the whole Masorah of Kabbalah, which is rooted in Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Shimon peeled back, he said there's a whole Pnimiyut Torah that's God Himself. Now Arizal turned that into a map of cosmology and all kinds of description of spiritual realities and Hanhaga. And that was developed all the way down to the Baal Shem Tov. The Ramchal turned that into Hanhaga. And the Baal Shem Tov showed you how that's all Avodat HaNefesh, how just like the Arizal said that we're a micro and the whole world's a macro, right? We're also a micro, right? The pasuk says, "Mipsari echazeh Eloha," and how the Avos even were able to define, to understand a defined form, so to speak, that they were meant to conform to through a purified sense of their own bodies, right? The Tzelem Elokim. So that means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a way to connect to Him in a real way through the Torah, and the avoda is to try to understand the Torah. Right? It's also that Hashem shares with us in ways beyond words. See, the pnimius of Torah is the Torah without words, because anytime I put words to it, I'm being megala tefach, but I'm being machaset tefachayim. It's all the thing. Pnimiyat Torah is always Pnimiyat Torah, even if you're learning from the greatest Kabbalists. He's just telling you words. You can't see behind the words. True Kabbalah is revelation. That means when God gives you, Chon in you, whatever Havana that you're meant to have, that's just for you, from Him. Okay? But in the act, in the exercise, in the practice, we're meant to, right? The Torah is supposed to inform our behavior down here, that we're working on our midos, and that's what the Mekubalim say, right? The Ramak says, listen, I can turn Kabbalah, I can turn the Pnimiyut Torah into a Musar Sefer, so that we could talk about Hashem having a particular personality, and He has certain attributes that you have. Hold your attributes like His attributes. So, the Torah is the giving of the Torah, or the preparation, or what would be become having given the Torah, right, as a function of the Sefirat HaOmer and the work, right? That's the time of the potential of the growth. That's the greatest legacy that we have from Rabbi Akiva, which is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, is the Pnimius HaTorah, is the inner aspect of engaging knowledge, connecting to Hashem, and sharing with Hashem, becoming one with Hashem, right, through this. And that's why that's preparation for Shavuos. It's all happening in the Sefirat HaOmer itself, okay? So that to recognize historically that what Rabbi Shimon is and his Torah legacy, that's he popped the cap off of that in a way that nobody did before him to everybody. He raised the entire level, the public discourse of Torah down here. He pulled the veil back to invite us all to engage in Pnimis Torah to the level that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is chomer us, and started that. And that's really the restoration of all the tragic things that we can contemplate and think about what happened with Rabbi Akiva. And it's telling me that we lost the Torah, that the Torah was obscured, that they were not nagu, that it highlights how, they engaged in Torah and they did not work on their meal. However you want to learn, Rabbi Shimon is the answer to all that, okay? And he entrusts us with that. And that's the tremendous simcha, I think. That's how I see it, okay? see if I missed anything. You
So
can ask
what
me
was
questions.
Kabbalah before Rizal?
The Kabbalah was in the provenance of, it was in the purview of few people that were zocha to attain Ruach HaKodesh and Nevuah. And that's no longer, we're not Nevi'im, we're B'nai Nevi'im. That means that we have the Torah and we can engage directly in revelation. Hashem talks to you when you learn Torah. Even beyond the page. It doesn't even matter what you're learning. Hashem talks to you. The Or HaGonos, the Talmid of the Baal Shem Tov say, is in the Torah Shabbat Peh. And there's stories of very great tzaddikim like the Chosam Lublin that would exercise, he would use his Ruach HaKodesh to help people that would come visit him. And when he felt he was running low on battery juice, he would seclude himself in his room and learn Mishnayos and then tell people he was prepared to see them again. So it's the light that Adam Rishon had above his head that you see Misof Olam Etzof. It's your neshama itself. It's so Yisrael Ve'arais of the Kodesh B'Richu Chadu. And that's what we say spiritually, that by Matan Torah, Am Yisrael was all uplifted, that each one of the 600,000 root personages of Am Yisrael, we were invested with those neshamos, letters of the supernal Torah of Hashem himself that he used to create the world. And that means we're bound by him. Our whole identity is really an animated piece of him. We're not just his children. Pesach, it's interesting to try to think about what Pesach did by itself, what our connection would be without Torah, if we would just stop. What is the import of a Yetzias Mitzrayim, and what a Matan Torah adds? But basically, the fact that Baruch Hu invested, he merged a letter of his Torah with us means that basically he made the whole destiny of this project, of his creation, reliant on his relationship with us.
So Diana,
he tied himself to us. In a certain way, yes, but all of Diana is like that. Right. The whole point of Diana is that you can't really say Diana, but it's to get you to recognize each discrete step in its own value. So to say that there's a value to Maimon Har Sinai without Matan Torah, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so I mean the whole project now is linked to us. When a nice man marries a nice lady, he's essentially giving her the keys to the kingdom, and he's tying his hand behind his back, and he's saying that, as a single man, I have unlimited agency in terms of the choices of my life, but I'm giving that up to be something bigger and to connect, right? And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us the Torah, he's basically saying that this whole project now is reliant on my relationship with you, and he entrusted us with that, and he elevated us and he gave us all a living eternal identity as a piece of that. So that's what we are. And also another added significance of that is, the Torah is puzzle if there's one letter missing. So, we're all in it together, and we got to make sure that, understand that, like I said, we're talking about Sefirat HaOmer, not Torah. But we've been talking, you can't really, okay, this is an idea that goes back to the idea of Lo Nagu Kavod Zevizeh. It says when you daven in Berachos Kriya Shema, before you say Kriya Shema, so there's the bracha of Berachos HaTorah of Ava Rabba or Avos Olam in Shachris and Arvis, and one of the things you daven for is there's so many Lashonos in that bracha, at least in Lashon Tzfat, of that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should be makabetz all of Am Yisrael together, and that we should all come together to love you. There's an emphasis of togetherness, but there's a particular line I'm blanking right now. Okay, it says Vayichan Sham Neged Ahar, that they all got there at Har Sinai and they camped there, right? And it's Lashon Vayichan, and it's a Lashon singular. And Chazal say, why is it Vayichan? Right? Ki ish echad b'lev echad. They got there ki ish echad b'lev echad, like one man with one heart. Okay, that means they were united in a common purpose, that they all felt all together, and that is a prerequisite to an individual's ability to receive the Torah. Ad kedei kach, that you could be a genius, and you could have all the great books committed to memory, and you can know any halacha. I guarantee you that it's not Torah. If that person in their heart has decided, for whatever reason, he's excised a denomination in Am Yisrael, or he feels separate, or he's written off. If he doesn't feel you can't, whatever, he can know facts, and he might be intellectual, but you can't ask him for Torah because that can't be revelation from God. He's not going to be informed by Hashem and the Shekhinah, what they tell you, because that's not Torah unless it's coming from a place Keisha Chabri.
So that's why Rabbi Elazar had to be in the cave together with Rabbi Shimon.
Why did they need a chavruta? Or chavruta or masusa? Like we say, the Torah is a Torah of connection. It's all there to facilitate connection, right? So maybe that's an aspect of it.
How would you explain lo nagu?
So one Chazal says lo nagu kavod zeh b'zeh, that they did not act with the proper respect. There's a much starker lashon in Chazal that they had sinna and kitata, which means that they competed. It's like as if they engaged in Torah and they had no sense at all, which I find that hard to believe. How do you become no sense at all of what Torah demands of you of how to be in terms of Ben Elachar? I find that very hard to believe because it says they had a sinna, and I don't know how you could become a Talmud Rebbe Akiva who says, you have to yeah, I don't understand. I heard, especially, the people, the Misora of Torah in Eretz Yisrael here, that, that's maybe started around Hakamas HaMedina. They have a whole tradition that they talk about, and I have not found, I'm just reporting, I don't know what this means, but there's this whole approach that really this is all a cover story, and Chazal are trying to teach you a lesson, but really they died in the Bar Kokhba revolts. And I have a big problem with that for several reasons. It might be, but I don't understand. First of all,
can you repeat the question again?
There are those that say that Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim really died in the Bar Kokhba wars, and I have a problem.
Not from a plague.
Yeah, and I have a problem with that. I don't know how that could be, and what would be the value, and why Chazal would then say it like that. And if there was a lesson, I'm sure they could have told us a lesson from the Bar Kokhba. I don't know why they had to sweep that under the rug. So I don't know. I get it sounds to me, it feels to me like other things, typical things that I've heard about Jewish nationalism, and when it comes to wars of, there's like
they were the new Jew back then.
I don't know, I don't know, and they talk about
they didn't appreciate each other in Torah.
that's Shalom Nagu. That's Shalom Nagu. But there are other sources. Yeah, and there's if you don't talk about the Chazal talking about. Rav Sharira Gaon says that they died because of Shmad, Shin Mem Dalet. Shmad. And Shmad usually means that there was a gezerah of takanos against Torah, and it was Yehereg V'al Yavar. Shmad usually means a sense of Yehereg V'al Yavar. So it could mean that they were like, Rabbi Akiva was one of the Asar Rugei Malchus. It could have been that they died Akish Hashem. Meaning, so it seems to be that Chazal want to tell you, don't be bogged down by the circumstances of how they died, because Chazal wants to tell you why they died.
Right.
But so Chazal are telling you.
What?
What do you mean, Shalom Nagu? Why are you dissatisfied with that?
Yeah, I agree. My problem too.
That's
we should follow Rebbe, or they for sure.
No. I think that's exactly the point.
What?
I think that if it was taka, like that they had sinna, that I couldn't accept, or that doesn't make any sense. But to say that they were tzaddikim that were done kechuta sa'ara, then on any level that means that if they were lacking in shleimus in any way, that's what we're gonna be told. Like that's how they would tell us that. Meaning, of course you're right. That's why they tell us that way, because that's on their level to have a Rebbe that says and they've been entrusted that's the Messiah that they're going to give over, and they weren't doing that on the derech akadei kach that was demanded of them, then they were judged mamish. I mean, your question is that's how I hear it. But the whole thing, for me, is much more about. Look, I'm always, even without the death of Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim, we know it's very, very important, and it doesn't help me, and it's not desires me to be any better at it. I don't think I hope I don't die because of my infractions, and I'm trying to get better. But like the fact that the takeaway for Sefirat HaOmer, like I say, it should be it's a general working on the midos, but it's to highlight the fact that this is a celebration of our potential and our growth with kadosh Baruch Hu and the ability to connect Him through Torah, and that makes a lot of sense to me then, and why we make such a big deal out of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Because
But that's easier to understand the Shem Baptist part than the first part. Why no husband? I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, not at all. But like it happened.
That doesn't help.
It happened.
Why?
It happened. So I heard. Yeah.
Matter of degree,
Right. That was our answer. Like, I heard.
Matter of degree.
I heard the same people that talk about Bar Kochba. They also make another point. They say that just like we said, the Ramban says that it's it's Chol Hamoed. It's mamash Chol Hamoed between Pesach and Shavuos, and that's really why we don't cut our hair, because you're not allowed to cut your hair during Chol Hamoed. And by the way, it's not stam, because part of the way of holding on, connecting to a certain time, is not cutting your hair from that time. Because you see, you're actually bearing the holding the connection. You're saying from that time, like I'm holding on, right? So, and that could even be why Avela specifically, why you don't cut it. It's not just because we're not caring for our appearance, but you're living you haven't moved from something that has happened. That was personal thing. Anyway, and we don't get married during Sefirat HaOmer because you don't get married during Chol Hamoed in Marav and Simcha b'Simcha. So really, it was a tremendously happy time, like we talked about. And it's a time, why is it joyous? So imagine, we say, but when you count Sefirat HaOmer, the Kabbalistic prayer afterwards is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mitzavas kedei l'tahareinu mikli paseinu mitumaseinu. And that we should be niskadesh b'kedusha ha'elyona. So it seems that kol ha'machala asher samti b'mitzrayim, they were very sick in Mitzrayim, very, very sick people. And we got some of that. Well, we got some of that sickness on us. Oh, the Mitzrayim, very, very depraved, sick people. And Hashem put us in immediately, He started to heal us. And He took us out of Mitzrayim. And we went through a process of, rehabilitation, convalescence, of healing. So we're happy because the illness is no longer a danger. It's died. But we're still not up to our full strength. And, so in a hospital, if we're recovering from something terrible, there's great joy that we're going to make it and we're getting better, but we have to take our time and we have to still watch ourselves, and we can't be reckless. We can't act like we're healthy. We still have attendance. We still have help with certain things. And we even have a guardrail on our bed so we don't fall off. So they say that Sefirat HaOmer is the same thing. It's a time of great joy, but it's a time of great danger. There's great potential that's supposed to come to fruition, and indeed, even they talk about that there was a Mesorah. They want to say that there was some sort of tradition. I always thought B'Nisan Nigalu, B'Nisan Atid, and they go, but there are those that say that there are times Mesugal and Iyar also, as is evidenced by historically whether when is Yom Yerushalayim? That's the end of Iyar, and Yom Ha'atzmaut, they say, right? So they want to say Bar Kochba. I don't know why Bar Kochba specifically happened in Iyar. I don't think it happened more. I don't know the duration of. I don't know. But they want to say that Iyar is a time where there's mamash, it's mesugal for the geula. You know why? Maybe the pasuk says in Shir Shim, it says Hanitzanim, right? Az ba'aretz. What's that pasuk? The kol atar nishma b'aretzenu. So kabbalistically, they said that the geula is right. The pasuk in Shir Shim talks about how like the trees are blossoming, right? You see the flowers. Yeah. So it could be that. That's spring. It's Chodesh Hashanah. Anyway, Ani Hashem Rofecha. Hashem's healing us, and we're going towards being able to bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu down here to earth, bring the Geula. But there's a danger. There's a danger. And historically, when the danger came to roost, one of the great, that's a tragedy that colors us till today, was that it's a time of great dinim also. So the time, meaning since we're supposed to be growing and all the pressure and all the expectation is on us to get to a certain place, by Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim, for whatever reason, they don't say that. They say that he died they died in the Bar Kochba revolt. So they want to say that there's some sort of danger and there's some sort of loss, and that was the tragedy. But it seems that even the way we're learning that there's going to be more dinim in a way, and that if you're meant to grow and you're meant to become ki ish echad b'lev echad, and you're supposed to be amech kulam tzadikim and Yisrael v'aresu kosher b'yichul chadu and all that beautiful lovey-dovey stuff, So it's going to be really, really bad when the future generation, who's responsible for carrying the Masorah of Torah, if they're not on the level, and that's going to be a tremendous din, and then they could jeopardize all the Torah that they had, and that's indeed what happened.
How did people look at Rabbi Shimon in his own day? Did they consider him like a rebel, and that he was giving away something that was supposed to stay secret, and it was like not a good thing?
Only after the day
Or-
died, no time to judge him.
What?
There's different traditions as to what happened on Lag BaOmer. So I just want to mention there's a whole question of if there was a printing error. There are those that say Yom Shemes, Rabbi Shimon was on Lag BaOmer, and there are those that say Yom Shesamach or Samach, Yom Samach, that he got smicha on that day. Not smicha with the sound, but I'm saying Shesamach, meaning he had great joy. He made a party because it was celebration. Meaning either
How
way,
many years later was it? I mean,
many. I'll tell you. Look,
so,
Rabbi Shimon had a very, very long career. He appears as a junior upstart.
He's modern, right?
Yeah. He made sure when Rabbi Akiva was a junior student at the Beit Knesset Noam, Rabbi Shimon was making problems. Rabbi Shimon learned for a very long time till he approached Rabbi Akiva already when Rabbi Akiva was getting heat from the Romans. He approached Rabbi Akiva to teach him personally, and he had to blackmail Rabbi Akiva. He pressured him. He said, "If you're not going to teach me, I'm going to report you to the government," because his father had good connections. You do what you got to do.
but then he.
But wait. And then he studied. He was one of the 5. And like I told you, Rabbi Akiva said, "Listen, it should be enough for you to know I know who you are. God knows who you are. Nobody else has to know you, right?" But in the end, after he was hiding out in the cave, which is well after Rabbi Akiva was killed.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
He was in the cave for a long time.
12 years, and then 12 months. But you know what?
Yeah.
Do you know Nixon went to China?
Yeah.
Yeah, Nixon went to China. They say only Nixon. They could have only sent Nixon to go to China. Rabbi Shimon, they had a problem. Rabbi Shimon, even, they sent him to go to Rome later at the last stage of his career, meaning he was so big by the end that they knew the only person that they could send to Rome to get rid of the decrees. There were terrible decrees that they knew. Basically, Eliyahu Navi told Rabbi Shimon that he could leave the cave because it's not like statutes of limitations, but the guy was dead. The Caesar who put out a warrant for him was dead, so he was safe. He came out, but everybody knew who it was, and there was I believe the Gemara says that there was a gezerah against Shabbos and Mila, and they're like, "How are we going to deal with this?" And everybody says, "There's only one man." You're sending Rabbi Shimon. So Rabbi Shimon went and he enlisted the aid of a demon. I don't know if you know the story. And he sent the demon to bother Caesar's daughter. And Caesar's daughter is doing the crab crawl on the ceiling and screaming, "Get Rabbi Shimon, get Rabbi Shimon." So Caesar gets Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Shimon says, "Okay, buddy, you can leave now." So he packs out. And Caesar goes, "Wow, is there anything I can do for you? Anything?" He's like, "Yeah, if you could take me to the archives, I'd like to have a tour." So they send him to the official where they file all the decrees, and he finds the decrees and he rips them. So that's the story. Point is that he was probably the biggest ever. By the time he passed away, he was the biggest. I mean, all his contemporaries were the biggest.
But not because he revealed.
Well, according to the Zohar, he was. Well,
is that why he's the biggest, or because?
Well, it depends. To people who learn the Zohar, like the Saraya Kadisha, all the biggest sages, they were learning with him in the cave. And Raya Mehemna was there. That's the Neshama Moshe Rabbeinu, and Eliyahu. I mean, people knew who he was. All his contemporaries had no question who he was.
But
now, the average guy on the street knew who he was because he was the one shooting people with laser beams. Right? Everybody knew who he was. He was the champion of Jews. Not only that, but really
it's not exactly down the
No. So that's the whole thing. They say it's like Eliyahu Navi. There's Eliyahu Navi before and after. There's Rabbi Shimon before the cave and after the cave. And Rabbi Shimon after the cave is somebody who the Rebbes, the Talmid of Baal Shem Tov, Chassidish Rebbes talk about how he is a model. He is a model for a Chassidish Rebbe. How mamish, how his heart is. If you see what Rabbi Nosson says when he talks about from Rabbi Nachman about Rabbi Shimon and Lag BaOmer. He says it's the joy how Rabbi Shimon uplifts all the parts of us that we can't uplift. That the tzaddik is working on us to be makasher us all to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and all the pieces of us that we can't filter. Mamish, he's playing safety, and it was so important for Rabbi Shimon to be malamet zchus on every yid, no matter what, and to shift the blame where it deserves. And that he said that he could potter the whole world from the. I mean, there's somebody who's taking somebody. So they develop that aspect of Rabbi Shimon's personality, and that's really why he's every man's hero. He becomes the most sympathetic. I mean, the one with the most sympathy, the most empathy for Nishmas Yisrael, and the ultimate advocate. Okay, so that's. I mean, he's the Talmud Chacham's hero, and he's the every Yisrael's hero. He's the tzaddik. He becomes the tzaddik. But in terms of the Gilui of Torah, really, he's first and foremost. That's who he is, and that's really what he gave. So that's what we got for today.
We should make a movie.
We are ready. We'll start tonight.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
But smicha, and I heard that he got smicha twice.
Oh.
And also, so somebody else. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not aware of that fact offhand, but if he got smicha from Rabbi Akiva, I imagine it was much later. So if he got smicha from anybody, it was probably before Rabbi Akiva. There was probably no need for him to get smicha after Rabbi Akiva. I don't know who he could have learned from. That's interesting. I know that he was in the Beit Medrash as long as Rabbi Akiva was. Rabbi. I mean,
what's the connection to bonfire?
Okay. Yeah.
You were talking about before. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Thank you very much. Okay. In short, you asked about bonfires, so just really short. Okay, Aaron HaKohen is Hod. Okay, Lag BaOmer is Hod Sheba Hod. What is Hod? What's Aaron HaKohen?
He's a Kohen.
Yeah, what's Hod?
What is humility?
What is Hodaya?
And to acknowledge, to admit.
Splendor.
What does that mean?
Do we have consensus? How could it be all these things? What's the common denominator of all the things that you said?
Being on fire for Hashem.
Aaron is all about peace.
But that's not what Hod is. Hod's not peace.
Glory.
Yeah, what does that mean? Splendor. What does that mean? Splendor.
Look, in terms of
it's the last flag.
Okay, so Aaron had a lot of character traits, a lot of wonderful traits that and since we call him Hod, right? It's true that everything we said is inherent in Aaron even. But I wonder how Hod pulls it all together. So I'm going to offer something else, maybe.
I think when it's channeling, the war is your own priorities. When you're with someone else or in a job like Aaron has, you are able to modify that before situation. Person, you're able to bring down Shenzhen in the situation.
Is that more Hod or more Yesod? It sounds like what you're saying sounds a little bit more like Yesod, no?
Yesod is gathering about
grounding it.
But isn't Yesod about integrity and sensitivity in relationships to facilitate true intimacy and appreciation and through your talk? I don't know all these. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna.
So you tell us the.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine that you had let's say there's a guy, and he has a neighbor, and his neighbor's a regular guy, and he spends years with this neighbor and he appreciates him, but there's nothing extraordinary or remarkable about his neighbor. And then one day, there's a war, and the front lines hit your neighborhood, and you're involved in a battle to life and death with your neighbor, and because of the circumstances, he's able to exhibit an incredible moment, a glorious moment of great courage and great accomplishment, a great feat that you never ever would have seen otherwise, that was latent inside of him, but you needed extraordinary circumstances for it to come out, but you never would have been aware of that dimension of him before. Okay? Hod is the splendor, the glory of a moment of a deep pneumius, a flash of pneumius that gets expressed. And the reason why this is Aaron, because Aaron was able to do that with people. And he saw people, he saw the potential of what they were, and was able to draw them out. that out of them, and he was able to facilitate peace because he was incredibly loving and peaceful, and facilitated that through this ability, this idea of hope. He wore the names of all of Am Yisrael Chakuk al Libo, and there's many wonderful things about that. But Hod really is a brilliant flash that you have of something that otherwise is hidden because it's latent, and it's a brilliant giloi of a pnim that illuminates. That's why Aaron is given the mitzvah of lighting the menorah, because in this act of combustion, it's a physical, just on the level of physics, it's a physical chemical reaction that turns matter back into energy. So for a second, you're able to see, the energy that went into the matter. You're releasing the oreganos, so to speak, in the physical world. The muscle for the oreganos. When you're lighting something on fire, when you're burning something, you're turning it back into energy. You're showing what the energy is that made up the mass, so to speak. And it's, so the Zohar, the Pnimius, to be Megal, the Pnimius, whether it's the Pnimius of Am Yisrael, we're being Megal, that our Pnimius is the Torah, or it's Rabbi Shimon, who was Megal, the Pnimius of Torah, which is Hashem, the Pnimius, I think that's the symbols of Hod and Rabbi Shimon and the bonfire and Aaron HaKohen. And at least that should give you something to get creative with. So, happy Lag BaOmer, everybody. We should be zocheh to post personal growth, unprecedented personal spiritual growth, and together, Klal Yisrael should have tremendous growth. We should all contribute and all be part, and B'Shem Klal Yisrael elevate us all, that we should have a tremendous Maimed Har Sinai, and all be there for a Matan Torah, and it should be on behalf of the whole world. It should elevate the whole world this time.
Amen. What's the goal?
The Keshes? Okay, I'm not in this all.
No, the kids say because they.
Well, I'll tell you what, why is it that the red is